Welcome back to the History Channel. Later, weapons of World War I and U, but now, the Battle of the Bulge. The Battle of the Bulge was the last major German offensive of World War II. Beginning on December 16, 1944, it took place in the Ardennes region of Wallonia in Belgium, France, and Luxembourg. The fighting, however, was mainly between the Dwight D. Eisenhower's United States, Bernard Montgomery's Britain, and Adolf Hitler's Nazis. The Battle of the Bulge is said to be one of the most important battles of the war by many historians. Germany was running low on supplies and were using young boys to fight. Hitler, who was most likely jacked up on opioids at this point, did what he could to prevent the war from ending. The battle began when the sneaky Germans attacked a weakly guarded part of the Allies' defense. Like a snake or reptile of a sneaky nature, they slithered behind Allied lines undetected early in the morning and made their move, as can be seen here in this found footage. Opioid-laden Hitler wanted to attack the Allied forces out of nowhere in the hopes of demoralizing them and convincing them to join forces with the Nazis and stop the rapid expansion of Stalin's Soviet Union, proving that somehow Hitler was even more crazy than originally thought. The attack was a success. However, the Allied forces did not back down, fighting to regain their territory and take back the advantage over Germany. This would begin the Battle of the Bulge. Conditions were far less than favorable, making fighting even tougher than it already was. Temperatures dropped as low as 14 degrees Fahrenheit, and snow and ice covered the ground. Lou Novotny, a sergeant, said, "The morning was bitterly cold and foggy, and the snow was about 2 feet deep with the fir trees covered with snow. Brrr." Soldiers had to trek through horrid conditions, sleep in frozen over foxholes, and make do with the little supplies they had. Fences and tree stumps seemed to be the biggest issue for this battalion of infantry soldiers. The battle was tough, and fighting lasted for hours on end. The United States deployed over 500,000 men, and the Germans deployed over 700,000, making it one of the biggest battles in the war. The battle was reported back in the States by the media, and many feared for their loved ones in these terrible conditions. No one knew if their family members would make it back alive. Let's listen to a letter written to a U.S. infantryman by his wife.
Dearest Jonathan, oh, how I have missed you. Since the moment you left, I have been praying for your safe return home from this bloody, God-forsaken war. Once I heard that you were a part of the American troops going into Belgium, my worries only increased, especially since this battle seemed to be the most important and large-scale one fought so far. The casualties from this battle alone are amongst the highest, and oh my golly gee, the weather. You, Jonathan, are my true love. If I lose you, who will I do my herb gardening with? Every morning, when I wake up and see that you're not by my side, a single tear escapes my eye. I cannot believe that Hitler, with so much hate in his heart, has managed to create so much world destruction. Hopefully, with this being the last battle fought, I will safely be in your arms soon. Your dearest, most loving fiancée, Martha.
The war seemed even for a good portion of the fighting. The advantage went back and forth between the Allies and Germans. Here is an exclusive interview with an Allied soldier.
Killian Quinn, Allied News. How's that war going so far?
Well, so far, the weather's been quite hard for us. There's a lot of allies. We're fighting against a lot of people, but we're optimistic. Even though our supply has been cut off and this weather is just unbearable, I think we're doing well in the first part of this war, and I think we got to give a lot of credit for the other side, getting against us. But
It was definitely a strong first quarter. It seemed like you were missing a lot of shots. How do you think you'll improve on that in the second half?
Well, definitely our accuracy is something we've worked on in shooting practice and whatnot, and hopefully we can just improve on that.
All right, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Good luck out there.
Thank you.
Key battles and operations at Elsenborn Ridge and St. Vith and the Siege of Bastogne were big turning points for the Allies and saw an exhausted Germany start to lose their hold. By the end of the war, the Allies suffered over 90,000 casualties, losing over 1,300 tanks and aircraft. The Nazis had over 100,000 casualties, losing over 1,600 tanks and planes. Many soldiers did not get to go home to see their families, but there were few who did get to be reunited with their loved ones. Martha, who wrote the letter to her bulky and successful soldier husband, who attended Duke by the way, was fortunate enough to see him return home in one piece. Now, let's take a listen in on a post-battle interview with an unsuccessful German soldier.
Killian Quinn, Nazi News. Can I have a moment of your time?
Jeez. Sure.
Why do you think the war's going so poorly at this point?
I don't really have a specific reason. We seem to at the start have more men and more firepower, but as the war went on, the fighting, they were stronger, they had more willpower than we did. I guess at this point of the war, we just wanted to go home.
I talked to an Allied soldier at halftime, and he said they were going to work on their shooting. Did you notice any change in the second half?
They must have taken steroids or something, because the accuracy just, the amount of people I saw got shot in the middle of the forehead there, it was unbelievable. They came out fighting after the second half, and we didn't really put in a wunderbar performance, and we could have done a lot better, but I don't know.
You definitely have to give props to the other side. They played great.
They did, yeah. They had a really strong fight there. They really didn't let their morale drop despite the weather and the forestry and the stepping stones that a lot of people had stepped on it earlier. They really did a good job.
Thank you very much for your time. I wish you luck in retreating and not dying.
Thank you.
The Battle of the Bulge was, without a doubt, a very rounded swelling or protuberance in World War II that led to the downfall of shaky Adolf Hitler and his Nazi regime. Efforts from Dwight D. Eisenhower and the Allied forces, as well as help from the conditions, were able to bring down this last-ditch offensive by the Germans and help lead to Allied victory for the war.